I rise in this debate, Mr. Speaker, not to speak about myself, but to speak for those who cannot defend themselves. For the grieving families of our brave war dead, for courageous survivors of 7/7, for many others dignified but now outraged victims of crime, and most recently, and perhaps worst of all, the victims of the violation of the rights of a missing and murdered child. Many, many wholly innocent men, women and children who at their darkest hour, at their most vulnerable moment in their lives, with no one and nowhere to turn, found their properly private lives, their private losses, their private sorrows treated as the public property of News International, their private innermost feelings and their private tears bought and sold by News International for commercial gain. And you know, amassed against these guiltless victims and against a succession of other victims of crime, whose names I know about and have seen, and have yet to be made public, the systematic use of base and unlawful methods, new crimes with new names, blagging, hacking, Trojans to break into computers and not just phones, not the misconduct of a few rogues or a few freelancers, but I have to say, law-breaking often on an industrial scale, at its worst dependent on links with the British criminal underworld. And this is the only way I will set out my case and then I will answer questions. And this is the only way, I doubt if anyone in this House will be surprised now to hear that the relationship between News International and the Labour administration I led was in all these years, from start to finish, neither cosy nor comfortable. And I think, Mr. Speaker, going back to the events as early as 2007, going back to the events as early as the summer of 2007, I think people would see on reflection the portrayal of me in The Sun as the betrayer of Britain as somehow proof of an over-closed and over-friendly relationship as somewhat absurd, or headlines that Brown killed my son, making me the murderer of soldiers actually killed by our enemy, the Taliban, could hardly be a reflection of a deep warmth from News International towards me. And the day after the generally accepted success of the G20, a front-page portrayal of me as Dr. Evil, hardly confirmation of the Sun's friendship and support as the world battled the threat of the Great Depression. Ofcom, Mr. Speaker, and I think this is incredibly significant, as this afternoon announced that it is now going to apply the fit and proper test to the remaining holdings of News International in B-Sky B. This is a further useful step, but what we must now have is three things, Mr. Speaker: a sustained and rigorous process of investigation and disclosure, a fairer distribution of media power in our country that will eventually restore the public faith in a media that is fully and genuinely free. And we will also, as a result of what we now know, need robust measures akin to those that I proposed this afternoon to ensure that the lethal combination of illegality, of collusion and of cover-up that we now know has prevailed for a whole decade, that collusion, that cover-up and that illegality can never happen again. Yeah!